Now, once again, we are going to be skipping the usual intro, and what I have to just say before we go any further into things is just a thank you to everybody for supporting and standing with me in this era where the stans are mad and hip-hop in a lot of places is looking bad. And so what I have to say as we are telling all the people on rap's losing team that we are not going to stop talking about what is really going on, and while no matter how much they cry, crash out, and try to frame narratives on me that don't exist, they are not going to change that. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe because it really helps me out a ton, and it has never been more important as a single like a day will get these weirdo cupcake Ice Spice Man loving Drake stands away. And now what I want to talk about today is something that once again had me thinking after these bigger stand efforts to try and annoy me and take me down, which on that note, I am not giving any clout out to any more of those losers. But as I have just been thinking about a lot of things the last day, it led me to somewhere else and to a place where what I have started to realize is that in this time where it does seem like rap is breaking into two pieces and we are seeing the Drake side of things get way more pathetic than ever, and at the same time, the only thing lifting anything up is Kendrick with consistent moments of both high-level artistry and cultural dominance. Well, overall, as this is still what rap looks like, even though we are at a point where we are decently removed from the actual exchange of diss tracks and the greatest and most watched beef we have ever seen. Of course, with that, while it does make a lot of sense that everybody has their favorites and people have chosen to either be winners or losers for the rest of their fandom, I guess, what I have realized on a deeper level is that a major problem in hip-hop as a whole is that besides Kendrick Lamar, and you could also say Clips, Tyler the Creator, and there is a very small list of a few others there, rap is just at absolutely no balance. And to be honest, with how much the genre and its weaknesses have been exposed, we are seeing guys really just trade in their mics and hip-hop cars for clown costumes at an all-time rate, and it ultimately has put us in a point where outside of a few great MCs that we have, it's not just like rappers are embarrassing themselves on a one-off basis or rappers are dropping something mid here and there, but ultimately the art and the culture has been put down so much that most people can't even get eyes on their music or have it have any sort of an impact just in terms of being a conversation piece even, beyond like a 48-hour window maybe. And well, all of that is because maybe J. Cole was onto something and this is what he has been seeing, I don't know, but we really have been in the era of what I want to say is the fall off. And well, what I do know is that Clips has been onto something because in a way it does seem like things are being sorted out, but it is honestly bigger and a little more concerning than that when you really break everything down. And to seriously just talk about fall offs, I am going to categorize everything going on in rap for the wrong reasons under three branches, with the first type of fall off being that nobody is caring, the second being that people are stopping to care, and the third being that people are caring for the wrong reasons. And off this very premise, when I look at the non-Kendrick, Clips, and Tyler music that has been released in 2025 for rap, we have really been at the pinnacle of listeners just stopping caring about most rappers for whatever music that they have to offer, and we have never seen interest be so low, which when we look at it for a lot of these guys, in terms of the greater portion of hip-hop, all they can do is blame themselves for both their failure and each other's, because when you have been in the headlines for all of the wrong reasons, and you have dropped projects that are straight garbage, you can't be surprised about your inevitable fall-off. But with that said, in the bigger picture once again, when it comes to these guys striking out, I don't think we have ever seen a worse year, because seriously, this year's list of losers and flops is genuinely one of the biggest and most atrocious that we have ever seen in terms of the actual stars and big names in rap. Because if we just look at it in terms of the top stars, in terms of name value, no matter what side you were on, in the bigger picture of the music industry, with Drake, Lil Baby, Travis Scott, Young Thug, Lil Wayne, Lil Durk, and some would even say Cardi, or at least compared to the hype, it was a letdown, with them all dropping music that did not hold up to the expectations they set, or even just in terms of the numbers and stats the way they used to perform. Putting all this into perspective, with pretty much month after month seeing a rapper drop trash, crash out about it, and then make a bigger scene and joke of themselves from how they reacted to the failure and then moved outside of the music, well, ultimately in 2025, when the only successful big name albums have been from Tyler the Creator, Clips, Gunna you could say, JID, Cardi B, and a few others, overall, especially with these stars and mainstays just failing to the level we did, and again, not just the Drakes, but the Lil Wayne, who no matter how you want to frame it and how you want to look at him now has always been a superstar and a legend, or even Travis Scott, who's always been one of the biggest performers in the industry, with them being this terrible, it creates a bad look for rap where you start to see people trying to blame the change in the genre on Kendrick Lamar and what he started off the beef, which honestly, when we just look at the cycle, this kind of reminds me of the Kendrick Lamar bar, although in a different context from the Heart Part 5, where he talks about in a land where hurt people hurt more people, and why are we calling this culture? And I say that because to try and look at everything going on in rap and to point the finger at the one guy who has been at an all-time great level and say it's his fault, it's honestly baffling, because Kendrick is the only one who has really been keeping this entire thing going and who has continuously won and who has elevated the genre at the same time while everybody is trying to pull it down. And so just to realize that Kendrick Lamar has never and will never be the problem, but it's all of the clowns who make SSS for U's and the Ooh Scooties and all that other stuff, well, they are the ones making rap fans or people who listen to the genre at any level run away to heights like we have not seen in so long. And again, when these fans see how little these artists care about these albums by just how little they actually roll out these things after they come out, and just by how much they don't put work into these things, because genuinely, with somebody like Young Thug, for example, the fact that he just dropped an album and already nobody's really talking about it, and he's not really doing anything to put in effort to make the album feel special or to try and put in any sort of a good word for it, that just speaks volumes to how little these guys actually care and think about anything through. And in an industry where other artists are willing to do the press runs and they are willing to do the things to make the music feel special, well, that's why hip-hop is fading away in a lot of sectors, and that's why a lot of artists are falling off. Because honestly now, to just be in an era where a lot of these guys are in headlines more for outrageous comments and choices that they make personally rather than their music, this is the worst thing that could happen to hip-hop, because it's changing the name of a rapper from somebody who creates great music and who has some of the highest ceiling for impact in the entire entertainment industry into something like we are seeing with a Drake, which is just a public joke and influencer. And so off of all of this and with these bad albums, we are at a point now where with a record like even the Carter 6, it has done something so bad for hip-hop, which now is that this record is not just an all-time failure on impact like we have seen with a lot of these projects, which even with this album being as bad as it was for Wayne in the past, we have seen records that are just this bad and even worse, and they have not ended artists' careers or set back the genre in the way we are seeing now. But now, unlike in the past, what the real difference is that with all of the failures coming on top of each other, and with these rappers just really not caring about the music anymore, fans notice that whether they realize it or not, and they have stopped caring. And with the constant failure that these stars from former eras have continued to put out over and over again, people are just not coming back. And really, with so much of rap just being in a decline and a lot of artists seemingly not knowing what to do whatsoever, I do think while we have these bad albums that everybody listens to when they drop and then we all talk about them, and they are really setting us back, and that comes from people like Legion of Lame Hall of Famers like Drake and Jeffrey, this is not just a mainstream problem, as even with guys who have been considered elite MCs or underground rappers, I know a lot of people try to use their words carefully when talking about them, but I am done, because after this rant from Benny the Butcher where he said this,
what's the games in the streets, the whole culture of the game, how that weird nerds and the nerds and all these weird, you got the hand of the culture, the streets don't mean as much as they did when it was coming up. There was a lot of content as well, I'm not gonna say that, but you see what happened when the streets kind of made up for the game no more.
With Benny the Butcher trying to act like the nerds are the worst thing for hip-hop and that the streets need to rule in order for things to run properly, and this is why rap's falling off? I mean, this is a comment that is just so close-minded and delusional to what the actual problems are that I can't even fathom it, and it's another example of the old man yelling at a cloud meme, because for Benny, to just blame your music not popping when other rappers in your lane like Clips and Freddie Gibbs have had career years in terms of success, well, again, this is a consistent problem. These artists are just lazy and they don't want to evolve, because maybe if he had some purpose to his pen and rhymes and stopped releasing the same project over and over again that you have since 2017, maybe you'd be just as big as them. But really, for rap and a lot of these guys like Benny, and I also have to put Joey in this group too after the plunder that his new album took by not charting and now his tour is falling apart, is that overall for a lot of these MCs who are not doing pure clown stuff like Drake, we have to have this conversation. But for Joey, Benny, and a lot of other rappers, the music you are releasing as hip-hop purists, quote unquote, is now just so unessential, low stakes, and honestly generic that in a genre with a history and reputation like hip-hop, I don't know how else to say this because it sounds weird, especially when you consider his last few albums before this, but with what Joey has done in the second half of the year, there is no place for a rapper like that. Because if we want to look at this project Lonely at the Top, which even with the name, again, this thing just screams unessential, between the trash cover to half of the songs which just feel like random type beat tracks. There's a reason your album flopped the way it did, and you should understand why this is after being one of the only rappers to do something remotely essential at the start of the year with the whole West Coast lyrical back and forth that you were trying to do. And so what I'm really trying to say here is that with these rappers like Benny who rant about things that are not even real problems, and then for people like Joey who have forgotten to do the most important thing as an MC, which is to make their music have purpose and carry clear intent to anybody who's thinking about listening, well, what my point is here is that just as bad as Drake and Young Thug have done by showing the clown show that rap stardom is in 2025, these guys have honestly set the craft back in other ways by showing that outside of a select few, even the guys who are trying to be rappers the right way are just not actually taking the steps needed to genuinely be great, and they are just throwing whatever words on a page and on a mic and putting it out there, which if any of these last albums that Kendrick, Tyler, or Clips should show you otherwise, that is the opposite of what is making great and successful hip-hop right now, and everything that is really driving the biggest things that we have seen in rap is all coming from pure intentionality. And so with all of this, what you can really see is that this is real hip-hop, and it is because it carries stakes and it has the feel of a classic body of work or something that is trying to be one, and that's just the name of the game. Because from that to people who are rapping under pressure and when the stakes are high, like a Gunna or even Cardi B because of everything she's in, those albums are doing better than most. And that is because while the album may not communicate as clear as one from Kendrick, Tyler, or Clips does, the stakes are there, and you know that these artists are rapping and making music with something to prove, and that is just something genuinely interesting to people who want to listen to something entertaining. So really with all of this, between the clown rappers and the ones who have just been making the best parts of real rap feel dull and like they have no payoff or glory anymore, we are at the point we are at now in hip-hop in 2025, where after getting so many bad albums and after seeing just so much decay, crumble, and cave in, well, rap is falling apart beyond what a few of the best people in the game can do. And while I have said that for Drake and the Vultures to fail and fall off, that is good for hip-hop and it's resetting things in a way that they should have always been, it does get to a point where with names like Lil Wayne and Travis Scott and others who have been a part of great things and they are falling and failing, while again, this is because of their own failure, let's be clear about that. The idea of them inherently failing and nobody taking their place is not good for rap, and it's all turning away listeners without more than like 40 songs across 3 or 4 projects holding every single thing together on the forefront. And so just really when I see this, and then also see when the floor of what a lot of these rappers like a Joey has been able to do went from a top 20 to 30 debut on the Billboard just a few years ago to not charting at all, I think in hip-hop we just need to do a better job right now of making rap across the board as dynamic of an art form as it can be. But in the meantime of all that, as there is a lot that has worked, and there are things in rap that have never been bigger, like every single thing that Kendrick Lamar is doing, I do feel like it's just a matter of time till people can figure things out and try to do at least a fraction of what he is doing, or ultimately just create a new wave and use the values he has showcased of artistic quality, value, and merit to do something great. But hey, until then, well, we're just going to continue to live in a rap world where so much of the genre is crumbling, and while some of this is good and it's fun and a testament to some of the greatness on how much they have been able to win at the same time as this, of course, for your Kendricks, your Tylers, and your Pusha T's, I do wonder where all of this is going to go and when the fall-offs will curve and turn around, because no matter what you say, when so many people are falling off in rap right now and nobody is filling that void, while of course it was and will always be good for Drake to go back to the Cosmics, with the decay and fall off that these other stars have created, it's just making people forget about rap music in a way where outside of a select few in the bigger picture, nobody is carrying this thing around. And while Kendrick, Tyler, and Clips and other people like that are going to be able to keep things going for a while and make rap pretty good, especially when Kendrick comes out, eventually somebody is going to need to do something. Otherwise, really, we are going to get to a point where the rap album and rap singles outside of the people who have consistently created goodwill like Kendrick are just going to be worth next to nothing, not just for fans, but the industry as a whole. And so now with this entire conversation, let me know what you think about just the state we are in rap beyond the best artists and with a lot of these stars who once we did think, at least in terms of the numbers, were holding things down. Now, I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about all this, and if you made it to this point, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton, and channel memberships are live and you can join today. That really does help me out a lot, and I can't thank you enough if you do. Now in this time, what I want to say is that now as hip-hop is falling apart and things are really getting interesting to say the very least, if you want to see how something bad happened in hip-hop yesterday, a few years ago, and really with that very moment changed the course of the genre like never before, well, you're not going to want to miss this one. Check out the suggested video.